There is a market in the town of Iseyin that opens before the living arrive and closes after they leave. Most people in Iseyin will tell you they have never seen it. They are lying. Not with malice, with the specific mercy we extend to ourselves when we have seen something that cannot be true and have chosen deliberately and permanently to believe we did not see it. Folasade has seen it. Twice. The first time she was 7 years old and dismissed it as a dream because she was 7 years old, and the world was still generous enough to offer her that explanation. The second time she was 31 years and she was standing inside it, and there was a woman across the market who was wearing Folasade's face, and the woman was selling things that did not belong to her. The things she was selling were memories, Folasade's memories, arranged on a market stall like clothes, prized, and the dead were buying them. To understand what Folasade was doing in the market of the dead at 31 years old, you need to understand what had been happening to her for 3 months before that night. She had been forgetting, not the ordinary forgetting of a tired woman, not misplaced keys and missed name, the specific surgical forgetting of someone whose memories are being removed from them with precision. It started small. She forgot the smell of her mother's kitchen. She had grown up in that kitchen. She had spent 22 years breathing the specific combination of crayfish and palm oil and the particular wood smoke from her mother's particular fire. She knew that smell the way she knew her name. On Tuesday morning, she woke up and it was gone. She called her mother and described it to her on the phone, and her mother described it back, and Folasade listened and understood every word and felt absolute nothing. The information was there, the memory was not. She told herself she was tired. Then she forgot her wedding day. Not the date, not the dress, not the church or the food or the guest. Her husband's face. She was sitting across the breakfast table from Taiwo, the man she had been married to for 60 years, the man who had held her through the death of her father, the man who had made her tea every morning without being asked because he had noticed in their first year together that she always forgot, and she looked at his face and felt the bottom drop out of something. She knew who he was. The way you knew who a stranger is when someone introduces them to you. She knew his name. She knew his job. She knew the facts of him. But the 60 years of specific, accumulated, irreplaceable intimacy that should have been woven into every line of his face, the way you know the face of someone you have loved for a long time, from the inside was gone. She smiled at him across the table. She drank her tea. She did not tell him because she was afraid that if she told him and he looked at her with the specific grief of a man whose wife no longer recognized him from the inside, she would not feel anything when she saw it. And she did not know what it meant about her that she was more afraid of not feeling than she was of forgetting. By the end of the second month, the losses had pattern. Folasade was a mathematics teacher. She noticed pattern the way other people notice weather, automatically, without effort before she had decided to look. The pattern was this. She was losing the things she loved most, in order, most beloved first. Her mother's kitchen was gone. Her wedding day was gone. The memory of the afternoon her father taught her to ride a bicycle, which she had carried like a stone in her chest since the day he died, was gone. Gone, not faded, not blurry with time. Surgically, completely, deliberately gone. As though someone had found the list of everything she held most precious and was working through it, methodically. She started writing things down. Every memory she had that mattered to her, she wrote into a notebook in the specific, precise handwriting of a woman who was documenting evidence. Dates, details, the texture of things, the way light fell, the exact words people had used. She wrote 43 pages in 2 weeks. When she went back to read what she had written, she recognized her own handwriting, but she could not remember writing a single word of it. 11 of the 43 pages were already gone. She had lost the memory faster than she could record them. She went to the hospital. They ran tests. They used words like early onset and atypical presentation, and we want to run some more and we would like to speak with your husband. They said the word in the careful, precise voice of people who have learned to deliver terrible things at the pace the receiving person can survive. Folashade sat at the hospital chair and listened and did the mathematics of what they were describing in her head without telling them she was doing it. The mathematics said, at the rate she was losing memory, she had approximately 4 months before she would not remember her own name. She thanked the doctor. She went home. She made Taiwo's dinner. She sat across from him at the table and watched him eat and tried to locate inside herself the 60 years of accumulated love that she knew intellectually had been there, and felt the specific desolation of a woman searching a house she knew she has always lived in and finding every room empty. Then she went to bed. And she dreamt for the first time in 2 months. She dreamt of the market. In the dream, she knew where she was immediately. She did not know how she knew it. The way you know things in the dreams with a certainty that has no explanation and requires none. This was the Oja Oya, the market of Oya. The marketplace that exists in the space between the world of the living and the world of the dead, where things that have left the living world but have not yet fully crossed over are traded, where what was lost is sold, and what is sold is gone, and the buyers are the dead who still remembers wanting things, and the sellers are. In her dream, she looked at the seller and understood something that made her stomach drop through the floor of the dream and kept falling. The sellers were not dead. The sellers were alive. They simply did not know they were selling. They stood at their store with their eyes open and their face blank, and their hands moving over the things arranged on their table, laying them out, pricing them, exchanging them for currency that Folashade could not see but could feel the weight of, and they did not know they were doing it. All of them with the same empty expression. All of them with the same quality of absence in their eyes. All of them selling memories. And at the store directly across the market, a woman in the wrapper, the exact color and pattern of the one Folashade had bought in Lagos 3 years ago and had not thought about in months because the memory of buying it was gone, was selling Folashade's wedding day to a dead man who was counting out payments with fingers that left no mark on the air. Folashade watched the transaction complete. She watched the memory transfer. She did not know how she could see it happening, but she could. The specific, irreplaceable thing leaving the store and entering the dead man's possession, becoming his. Becoming part of whatever dead men carry when they carry the thing they have purchased at the market of Oya. She felt it leave. The last remnant of her wedding day, the last trace that had been hanging on somewhere inside her despite all the losses. The way the afternoon light had looked on Taiwo's face when she walked towards him, the specific quality of that moment, gone. And when the woman across the market, the woman in Folashade's wrapper, with Folashade's face, with Folashade's hand moving over things that had been taken from Folashade's life, looked up and met Folashade's eyes and smiled, not with cruelty, with recognition, as though she had been waiting for Folashade to arrive, as though everything that had happened, the forgetting, the hospital, the notebook with 11 pages already empty, had been designed to bring Folashade here, to this market, at this moment. Awake enough to see what was being done to her, Folashade woke up. She did not question whether the dream was real. The mathematics teacher in her had built her entire life on the axiom that things are either true or they are not, and the evidence determined which, and the evidence was 43 pages of her own handwriting describing a life she could no longer access and a hospital telling her that she would lose the rest in 4 months. Something was telling her memory. She had just seen it happen, which meant something could be done about it. She got out of bed at 4 in the morning and went to the only person in Iseyin she believed would tell her the truth about what she had seen without sending her back to the hospital. Her grandmother's oldest friend, Mama Efunronye. 80 years old, completely blind, the most lucid person Folashade had ever met, and the only person she knew who spoke about Oya the way other people spoke about someone they had personally disagreed with on multiple occasions. Mama Efunronye opened her door before Folashade knocked. She said, "I have been waiting for you to have this dream for 6 weeks. She said, "Come inside." She said, "We do not have much time." She said, "The market is real. It has always been real. It operates on the boundary between this world and the next world, and it trades in things that the living loses and the dead desire." She said, "Ordinarily, the market takes what comes to it naturally. Lost memories, forgotten love, the thing that drifts from living people over time without their knowing, and settle in the market the way sediments settle at the bottom of a river. This is normal. This is how it has always worked." She said, "What is happening to you is not normal." She said, "What you are describing, the speed of it, the order of it, the precision of it is a harvest." A harvest. Someone is actively taking from you deliberately, using the market as the mechanism, reaching from inside the market into your living life and extracting the thing you love most before they can leave you naturally. Folashade said, "Who?" Mama Efunronye was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "The woman with your face." She said, "In Yoruba, understanding there is a concept you will know the word for, even if you have not heard it in a long time." She said, "Egungun, the ancestral spirit, the returned dead, this you know." But she said, "There is another kind of return, older than the masquerade, older than the shrine." She said, "Sometimes the dead do not return as spirits, they return as version." She said, "When a person dies with something unfinished, not grief, not love, but something more specific, a purpose so central to who they were that death did not dissolve it, they can re-enter the world through the only door available to them, through someone already living." Folashade said, "Through me." Mama Efunronye said, "Through you." She said, "The woman with your face is not an enemy. She is not a demon. She is not something that came to you from outside with malice." She said, "She is yours." She said, "This is the life you were supposed to have lived." She said, "The life you did not live because you were never supposed to survive past the night of your birth." Folashade said, "What?" Mama Efunronye said, "Your mother almost died the night she delivered you. You know this?" Folashade said, "I know this." Mama Efunronye said, "What your mother never told you, what I am telling you now because you have run out of time for the gentler version, is that she did not survive it by chance." She said, "Your mother went to the shrine of Oya 3 days before you were born. She was sick in the way that means dying slowly. She had been told by 2 separate healers that the child she was carrying was healthy and she was not, and that the birth would likely take her." She said, "Your mother knelt at the shrine of Oya and said, 'Take the life I would have lived after this child. Take everything I would have experienced after this birth. Let me live long enough to see my child born and raised, and I will give you the rest.'" She said, Oya accepted. She said, "Your mother lived. You were born. You were raised." She said, "And the life your mother gave to Oya, all those years, all those unlived experience, all that future had to go somewhere. it went into you. The unlived life of the woman who was supposed to raise you found the only vessel available, the child she had bargained to survive, and it has been living inside you alongside your own life for 31 years, quietly without your knowing, and now it wants out. Folashade sat in Mama Efuronye's room at 4 in the morning and did the mathematics of what she had just been told. She had not been losing her memory. She had been losing the memories of a life that was not entirely hers. The unlived life inside her, her mother's surrendered future, patient for 31 years, was finally separating, claiming itself, moving towards the market of Oya, where it has always belonged, taking Folashade's memory with it by accident. The way two things that have lived inside the same body for 30 years cannot fully separate without each other taking piece of the other. Mama Efuronye said, "You have a choice." She said, "You can let the separation complete. In 4 months it will be done. The unlived life will return to Oya's market entirely. Your own life, what is yours and only yours, will remain." Folashade said, "But 11 pages of that notebook are already gone." Mama Efuronye said, "Yes." Folashade said, "My wedding day is gone." Mama Efuronye said, "Yes." Folashade said, "My father's face is..." She stopped. She reached for the memory of her father's face and found something thin and fickle and almost gone where a whole man used to live. She said, "Those are mine. Those are only mine. Those don't belong to any unlived life." Mama Efuronye said, "Yes." She said, "The separation is imprecise. The two lives have been tangled for 31 years. What is taking itself back is not always careful about what it takes with it." She said, "This is why you must go." Folashade said, "Go where?" Mama Efuronye said, "To the market." She said, "Not in a dream. In the body, at the hour the market is fully open to the living. At the moment between the last hour of night and the first light of dawn, when the boundary between this world and the next world is at its thinnest." She said, "You must go to the market and you must find the woman with your face, and you must do something that no living woman has ever done in the market of Oya." Folashade said, "What?" Mama Efuronye said, "You must argue with her. You must convince the unlived life inside you, the life your mother gave away before you were born, the life that has been sharing your body for 31 years, that the memory it is taking with it do not belong to it. You must do it before the market closes. You must do it in the presence of Oya herself. You must do it knowing that Oya does not intervene in disputes in her market. She only witnesses, and she only accepts the argument of the person who is right." She did not go home to tell Taiwo, not because she did not want to, because the memory of why she loved him was already so thin that she was afraid if she stood in front of him for the time it would take to explain, the last of it would leave before she finished the sentence. And she needed to remember why she was going. She walked to the market at the last hour of the night. Not the real market, the shadow of it. The place the market sat in before daylight arrived, and the living version covered it like a cloth thrown over something that should not be seen. She walked through the gap. She did not know how she knew where the gap was. She knew the way she had known where she was in the dream, with the certainty that has no explanation and needs none. The market opened around her. It was more beautiful than the dream had shown her. That was the first thing that frightened her. She had expected horror. She had prepared herself for horror. She had not prepared herself for this specific beauty of a place that operates completely outside the rules she had organized her life around. The stores carried things she could not name but recognize. The specific quality of a moment of childhood joy, sitting on a table like a piece of cloth, still radiating warmth. The sound of a voice saying, "I love you," in a tune that meant it completely, bottled in something the color of amber. She understood why the dead came here to buy. She understood why they would pay anything. She found the woman with her face at the same store from the dream. Up close she was, and not Folashade. The same face, the same hands, the same particular way of holding herself that Folashade had seen in photograph of herself her whole life and never quite recognized as her own. But different in the way a room is different when someone other than you had been living in it. Everything in the right place, everything slightly wrong. The woman looked at her. She said, "You should not be here in the body." Folashade said, "I know." The woman said, "You came to argue." Folashade said, "I came to take back what is mine." They argued for what felt like an hour. Later, Folashade could not recount every word of it. She knew she had said things she did not know she believed until she said them. She knew the other woman had said things that were also true and that the truth of them had caused Folashade something to hear. The argument was not about who owned the memory. That question was. The other woman explained with the specific patient of someone who has had 31 years to think about their position, not as simple as Folashade wanted it to be. She said, "The afternoon your father taught you to ride a bicycle, you have caused this yours. Tell me, what part of it is yours alone?" Folashade said, "It happened to me." The woman said, "It happened in a life that would not have existed without your mother's bargain. The father who taught you was kept alive by the years your mother gave to Oya. The childhood in which that afternoon occurred was founded by a debt paid before you were born. The joy you felt was shaped by a stability that was purchased with someone else's future." Folashade said, "That is not." The woman said, "I am not saying it was not yours. I am saying it was not only yours." Folashade was quiet. The woman said, "Nothing I am taking was only yours." Folashade said, "My husband's face." The woman said, "Yes." Folashade said, "The way he looked at me the day we married, the 6 years of specific knowledge of him that I built in my own life through my own choice with my own heart, you are telling me that it is also not only mine?" The woman was quiet. Folashade said, "You have never loved anyone." The woman said, "No." Folashade said, "That is what I came here to prove." She said, "You lived inside my body for 31 years. You were there for every moment of the life I have built. You knew every fact of it. You know Taiwo's name and his job and the way he makes tea without being asked." She said, "But you cannot feel what I feel when I look at him. You cannot assess the specific weight of 6 years of choosing love. You cannot take the memory. You cannot take what I know inside it." She said, "And that is the difference between a memory and a life." She said, "What you are selling in this market is the shell of it, the information, the facts. You are selling dates and faces and the names of things. You are not selling what those things meant to me because that is not yours to sell." She said, "And the dead buying these memories, they know. They feel the absence. They are buying information about what joy felt like from someone who was never capable of joy. They are buying the photograph instead of the moment." She said, "Your market is selling hollow things." She said, "And Oya knows it." The wind moved through the market. Not wind, the quality of wind. The thing wind is when something ancient decides to remind you that it was moving through the world before there was a word for movement. The dead at the edge of the market lowered their heads. The stores went still. Oya was listening. Had been listening. The woman with Folashade's face looked up at the place where the attention was coming from. Then she looked back at Folashade. She said, "You know what you are asking for?" Folashade said, "Yes." The woman said, "If I return what is only yours and keep only what is mine, I lose most of what I have collected. 3 months of harvest, almost everything I spent 31 years preparing for. Folashade said yes. The woman said, and you understand that what I keep, what is genuinely the shared inheritance of the life your mother's bargain made possible, you will also lose. Those memories will come with me to this market. That is not cruelty. That is accuracy. That is the honest division of what was never entirely one person's to begin with. Folashade was quiet. She said, what do I lose? The woman said, your mother. Not your mother's death, not your mother's face, not the fact of her. The specific quality of safety that your mother's presence has always carried for you. The particular comfort of her voice. The thing that has never been about information. It has always been about the 31 years of your mother's bargain survivor being felt in your body as love. That belonged to the life she gave away. She said, you will remember everything about your mother, every fact, every moment. She said, but you will remember it the way you remember a stranger's story, without the weight of it. Folashade stood in the market of Oya at the last hour of the night and did the mathematics of what she was being offered. Her husband's face, really her husband's face, with the 6 years of love inside it, returned. Her father's face returned. Her wedding day returned. Her own specific irreplaceable life given back to her intact. In exchange for the thing that had kept her warm her entire existence, her mother. Not her mother's presence. Her mother was alive and would remain alive. But the 31 years of feeling completely safe in a way that only one person on earth has ever made her feel. Gone. Replaced by knowledge without weight. Replaced by a stranger's story. She thought about the hospital, the 4 months, the name she would eventually not remember. She thought about Taiwo making tea every morning because she had noticed she always forgot. She thought about her father's face becoming a photograph she could not remember being in. She thought about her mother. She said, agreed. The woman with her face nodded. She reached across the store. She placed both her hands on Folashade's face. And Folashade felt the most extraordinary thing she had ever felt in her body. She felt herself come back. Not the way sleep return. Not gradually. Like water filling a vessel that had been tipped. The specific rushing return of things she had not known were gone until they arrived back inside her. Taiwo's face, full and warm and completely known. Her father on the bicycle. Not a fact but a moment, with weight and light and the smell of his chest and the specific pride in his voice. Her wedding afternoon. Her mother's kitchen. Page after page of the 43 pages notebook filling back in with everything that had been emptied out of it. She was laughing. She did not know she was laughing until she heard herself doing it. And then she felt the other thing. The safety living. It did not live like a thief. It left like a tide. The specific warmth she had always carried in her chest when she thought of her mother. That particular quality of unconditional, foundational safety that had breathed in every day of her 31 years without knowing she was breathing it, receded slowly and completely and without cruelty. And she understood in the moment it left what it had been. Not just her mother's love, her mother's bargained years. The unlived life built into a feeling. 31 years of a woman's surrendered future expressed in the body of the daughter that surrender had saved, as the specific sensation of being completely safe in the world. She had been carrying her mother's sacrifice as a feeling her whole life, and now it was going home. The woman with her face stepped back from the store. She said, "You argued well." Folashade said, "I am a mathematics teacher. I know how to demonstrate that something belongs to me." The woman almost smiled. She said, "Give your mother my love." She said it without irony, without cruelty, with the specific sincerity of someone who has spent 31 years close enough to a woman to love her and never once had the chance to say so. Folashade said, "I will." The market began to thin. The first light of dawn was arriving at the edge of the world. The boundary was closing. Folashade walked out of the Oja Oya through the gap she had entered and stood in the ordinary morning of Iseyin with the real market beginning to open around her. She stood there for a moment, taking inventory. Taiwo's face, present, full, warm, known from the inside. Her father's face, present, his voice, the bicycle afternoon, the weight of his death carried correctly, as grief should be carried, with love underneath it. Her mother, she thought of her mother. She remembered everything, every fact, every moment, the kitchen, the voice, the 31 years of mornings. She waited for the warmth. It did not come. She knew her mother. She did not feel her mother. The knowledge was precise and complete and entirely without the specific gravity that had always lived at the center of it. She stood in the morning market of Iseyin and understood what she had traded. And then she did something that surprised her. She called her mother. Her mother answered on the second ring, the way she always did, with the specific warmth in her voice that Folashade has been hearing her whole life. Folashade listened to her mother say, "Hello, my daughter, are you alright? It is early." And Folashade said, "I need to tell you something." Her mother said, "Tell me." Folashade said, "I know what you did before I was born." The line was silent. Her mother said, "How?" Folashade said, "The same way you know things when the world decides it is time for you to know them." Her mother said, "I never wanted you to." Folashade said, "I know." She said, "I am not calling to make you carry something. I am calling because I want you to know that I know." She said, "I want you to know that I know what you gave up." She said, "And I want you to know that it was enough." She said, "Everything you bought with it, every single year of what you paid for, was enough." Her mother was crying. Folashade listened to her mother cry and waited for the warmth she had always felt in response to that sound. It did not come. Instead, something else arrived. Something new. Something that was not inherited and not purchased and not bargained for. Something that was built, quietly, irreversibly, inside her in this exact moment as she stood in the morning market of Iseyin, listening to her mother cry on the phone. Something that was entirely only hers. She did not have a name for it yet. She thought she might call it love, the kind that is built and not given, the kind that does not arrive at birth and does not live in bargains, the kind that you have to choose every morning with full knowledge of the cost. She went home. Taiwo had noticed she was gone. He was standing in the kitchen with the 2 cups of tea and the specific expression of a man who has decided not to panic until he has more information. She walked through the door and he looked at her and said, "Where did you go?" She looked at his face. She looked at his face and felt him. Not as information, as the 60 years of specific, choosing, accumulated knowledge of another person that lives in the body and not in the mind. She said, "I went to get something back." He said, "Are you alright?" She said, "I think so. I lost something too." She said, "What did you lose?" She was quiet for a moment. She said, "Something I had been given, something that was never entirely mine." She said, "I think I am going to have to build a replacement." He handed her the tea. He said, "That sounds like work." She said, "Yes." She said, "But I am a mathematics teacher." She said, "I know how to work through something that looks unresolvable." She said, I know how to find what is actually there and work with what is real. She drank her tea. She went back to the hospital 6 weeks later. The doctor ran their test. They used words like remarkable and unexplained and would like to run the test again. She let them run the test again. She did not tell them what had happened. She did not tell anyone except Taiwo, who listened to the full account without interrupting and then was waiting for a very long time and then said, "I want to meet your grandmother's friend." She said, "You cannot. She died the morning after I went to the market." Taiwo was quiet. Folashade said, "I think she had been waiting. I think she had been waiting for me to have the dream for 6 weeks before she needed to be the one to explain it." She said, "I think she went to the market herself that morning." She said, "I think she had earned it." They say in Iseyin that Mama Efuroye's house has been empty for 4 years now, that the family has tried to sell it twice, and both times the buyer walked through it and found some reason to change their mind before the papers were signed. People in the neighborhood said the house has a quality, sometimes in the air of it, sometimes in the way the room feels when you stand in them. Like someone who knew everything is still in there somewhere, still knowing, still watching the door in case someone else arrives in the last hour before dawn with a dream they are not sure was real and a question they cannot ask anyone else. This has been Whispers of the Forbidden, where some stories were never meant to be told, but needed to be.